Y'all, I done did it again. I have done it again. Now, I was supposed to learn my lesson, right? Lesson learned. Y'all remember that video? I done came up in here and planted all of these things, specifically these tomatoes, too close together. These tomatoes is planted too close together. I do not know what I was thinking. I planted determinate tomatoes 1 feet apart. Crazy. I was so focused on the square foot garden method. Like, okay, I'll plant 1 tomato per 12 inches. I'll do some different styles of trellising that works really, really great with the 1 foot apart method, you know, just in a row. It's going to work great, like the Florida weave. I got this. I know what I'm doing. I've planned it. I've got it. Oh, I don't got it. Listen. Determinate tomatoes, I couldn't even believe it. Determinate tomatoes need more than 1 foot of space. They just do. And I could not believe, as I was coming out here yesterday feeling all good and was like, yes, I'm about to do all of these trellises, because my tomatoes, these tomatoes are doing the gangsta lean on some of these areas. And I was like, oh no, I need to get out and I need to make the trellises for all of the beds, for the tomatoes and for the cucumbers, right? I was like, okay, so I'll come out and I'll do that. Came out here and started to work on a grid type of trellis for our tomato forest bed. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, something ain't right with this. Like, something ain't right. Y'all, I look it up and realize that, first of all, for determinate tomatoes, based off of what I researched, you're not cutting that down to 1 stem, right? Like an indeterminate tomato that's going to grow 10 feet tall. You can do 1 stem. It's fine. You know, it's going to vine so tall, right? A determinate tomato is more bushy. That's why there's tomato cages for those, because it's just like a bushy tomato plant, you know, and it's not meant to cut off all of the foliage, you know, because whatever is determined, whatever that tomato makeup determined amount is, that's how much it's going to produce. And so if you cut it off, regardless of how healthy it is, it only has a certain amount that it's going to produce. And I'm like cutting all around the tomato, like, because I know that I needed to prune it. They don't typically, from what I understand, love to be pruned, but at least 12 inches, so that the leaves aren't touching on the ground is good, you know. So I'm like pruning it, and I'm like, this is going to still be so bushy, because I have 10 tomato plants in that one like area. It's like 9 or 10, and I just was like, I've done it all wrong. I've done it all wrong. And how am I going to undo the thing that I just spent all those time, these weeks they've been growing? And so now I'm going to have to dig them up. Although I did do a good hard prune on these, and you know, there's more space than there was yesterday, these are only going to continue to get more and more bushy. And just these are 4 tomato plants right here. They're way too close together. I'm trying to have room for these things to breathe and to grow, you know, like, I just messed up, y'all. Okay, so there are a couple cabbages in this bed as well. So I know that and I really need to get him, because there's a worm in here and it's just like having the time of its life on this brassica. And so I'm just going to go ahead and harvest that today, and that cabbage, as well as this one up in the front, to see what kind of breathing room we still have. But all of those are tomatoes, and I gave it a good trim yesterday and made me a nice vase with my tomato stems, looking absolutely gorgeous and smelling absolutely divine. There's those 2. So I am going to leave this lettuce right here, since I can see that it is going to seed. Well, it's about to go to seed. So I'm gonna leave this so that I can collect those seeds from that. It's tough, right? Oh, you got it. And there's one right next to it. Right there. Good job. And then we have one more to harvest over there. Yeah, push it. We really need some sharper shears, I think. You got it? Good job. This is gonna give us some room in the bed to be able to see what we're working with. It's so interesting because what I also see over here is this carrot. Look at this carrot looking beautiful. I'm gonna leave it. Let me stick my finger in there and see if it's actually growing. A big carrot. Oh, I can feel a carrot. Let's leave that. Let's leave that. So this cabbage will be a part of dinner tonight. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that we're still harvesting fall crops, y'all. Like, we're still harvesting. And they look a little sad because it's warm out here, but I'm gonna put them in some nice ice cold water and rinse them off and prepare these to eat tonight. So the garden is looking a little messy right now with all the bits of pine straw all in the walkway and all the things. But the kids came out yesterday and they were so helpful and they mulched all of the beds that wasn't yet mulched. Early on, we mulched the tomato forest bed as well as the tomatoes that's along the trellis. I noticed that those beds not only appeared to be much more hydrated, but the actual starts that we placed in those beds grew so much faster than some of the tomatoes in other spots.
You not want the pine cones?
No pine cones.
But I learned that crows, when they're together, they're called a murder.
A murder?
Yes, ma'am. And other stuff too, but like the main thing they say a murder. I'm like, well, that makes sense.
The murder of crows. Okay, so after thinking about this, I think what I need to do is move this over here where I took that cabbage from, and that would make this tomato plant about 2 feet from this tomato plant, and then it'll make it also about 2 feet from this tomato plant, which will also be about almost 2 feet from the other one. So then I would remove this tomato plant and I will remove these 2 tomato plants as well on this side. Oh my goodness, look at that sad tomato plant right there. Hopefully it's going to work out just fine and it's going to snap back and be healthy. So we'll definitely keep our hopes up. So these cages were given to me last season. Somebody was throwing them out, and so they were given to me. And I've talked about how I like defined spaces, and so this just really helps my eye to put the cage around. And I'm probably going to stick a single stem of bamboo in there so that it can help support the tomato as it grows. So that is the plan. So these 3 cages, and then I did pull up all the tomatoes on this side except for this one because I felt like there was enough space in the back for it to have some room to grow. What I'm gonna do in these 2 pots is I'm actually going to plant a pepper plant. I have a shishito pepper, and I also have an ornamental spicy pepper that I am going to plant in this one. And I just thought that was just such a great idea, because I know that peppers are heavy feeders, and I'm like, I could just put a pot in the bed so that the tomatoes can get all the nutrients from the ground, and then the peppers can have its own source of nutrients in its own pot. And so that is what I'm going to do in these 2 pots. I'm going to plant those peppers. Okay, so here are the tomatoes that I need to pot up. Looking so sad. I really hope it snaps back. I have 4 of these pots right here, and they're actually only about 13 inches deep, but it's what I have. So we're going to use these and see if we cannot get some tomatoes to grow in here. Spotted my girls foraging behind here. Let's see if we can't see them. What you guys doing? Nice. Just the greatest thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, back to tomato plant.
So I know that tomatoes like to be planted pretty deep, and because this pot is only as deep as it is, I wasn't able to plant them as deep as I would have if I had a bigger pot, or if I was going to plant them in the ground. So we'll just have to see how they do.
See what you can. Believe it. Yum. So this pepper is the Thai hot pepper, and it's an ornamental pepper, and it looks so cool. It looks like flowers. So all of the peppers are at the top of the plant, so it's pointing upward, and it looks like flowers. I'm so excited about this pepper. This is the shishito pepper. So last year we had some shishito peppers up by the porch, and they did so well. So I am hoping to get many peppers from this plant. It was very prolific last year, so I am very excited about the shishito pepper. Did scooch this marigold over so that these 2 pots would have enough space in this area. I may go ahead and sow some onions kind of in our some of these empty spaces, so that can help deter pests as well. It was my last video that I showed how I got onions from the store and just cut the tops off and planted them in the garden for an inexpensive way to deter pests. Also see little volunteers that I have no idea what it is that's growing. They are popping up everywhere, and so we will definitely have a fun and exciting season of all the volunteers. Sometimes that is how it is. Like, we live and we learn, right? We go through the process, and then we reevaluate and say, okay, how do I pivot? How do I make this better? And this is better. So this is setting us up for success. Before, this bed was just way too crowded, like so crowded. And I want the success of the plant more than I want to squeeze in plants, you know, where they don't go to try to get a larger yield. Because what I don't want is, you know, disease and all the things that's going to come, but I don't want them to come faster. I actually want to set these up where they could be as healthy as possible. Definitely stay tuned and check out our next video, where I'm going to be showing you all the trellising that we are going to be doing in here. I'm going to be doing at least 3 different types of trellising. for these tomatoes and cucumbers. I really want to see what method really works great for us and which ones we don't really prefer. You can't really know until you try, right? And so we're going to be trying several different trellising variations just to see which one really works for which spot. And so I hope that you are encouraged today as you see me undo something that we've already done, but just to make it right. Pivot if you need to. Do what you have to do in order to set yourself up for a successful season. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will definitely see you next time.